Hello, hello. Okay, it is live right now on Facebook. Trying to see. Here we go. I want to share it in our Girl Hold My Hand group. I will do that and then go live on Instagram. Okay, where's the exclamation mark? And then we are going live here. Oh, that's not working. Hello, Instagram. Welcome back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live everywhere. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Instagram. Right? And we are live on YouTube. Hello, lady. Welcome, welcome. We will be continuing our topic, which is the Inner Child Workbook. That's what we have been talking about. I'm trying to, hello Giselle. This life has been interesting these days, right? Trying to set everything up. Yesterday or day before yesterday, we started uh, I have no idea if this is working on YouTube. I'll just leave it like that. And if it's not working, I will download it from Instagram, right? And then, because for some reason I can't go live and Girl Hold My Hand, which is what I'm trying to do. And then trying to go live on TikTok as well. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Please bear with me. So, we'll be talking about the Inner Child Workbook today. Right? This is the one that we are working on. I will be back here. Let me discard that. And I want it to go live on TikTok as well. How is that going to be possible? Ha 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 ha. Ay, my Lord. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. Oh, I'm still live on Facebook. I am still live over here. Let me go back live over there. And Facebook, give me a moment. I'm going to set up my... This is so fascinating. Are you okay with me?
Yeah. Just want me to do something in the back.
Sorry. There's nothing I can do right now, baby.
Just one though. Okay.
As you can see, I'm starting now. You didn't ask me to do anything until it's time for me to start.
But I just want to write something.
Nene, it's already live, my love, and I don't want to say no. Hmm? But it's already live. Hello. I am back here. Can you see me? I'm going live on TikTok. Inner Child Workbook. These things. Right, okay. Hello. Hi, TikTok. Hello, hello. It lost connection? Why are you losing connection? Oh, I'm live here as well. Okay. So I'm live everywhere. It has been very difficult getting these things together, right? And so welcome. We are continuing our conversation on Inner Child Workbook that we started, and today we will be going into step 1, which is identifying your pain. And TikTok, welcome. I started this yesterday and we didn't get to talk about it. Hi Chrissy, Warrior Queen, welcome. So we will be continuing with the Inner Child Workbook, and here I have a little bit of a prompt, which is signs of a wounded inner child, right? A lot of people don't know what the inner child is. TikTok, welcome finally, right? I forgot you for a little bit. I am sorry. There's so many people who just come on the live and then they request to join without really knowing what exactly is going on, right? And I'm like, if you join the live, what are you going to talk about when you don't know even the person? Okay, so signs of inner child, because this is the first time TikTok is joining us, right? I love how I look on TikTok and Instagram. I look gorgeous, baby. Don't mind me. Okay, so let's go. Signs of the wounded inner child, right? The first one is you are easily offended and hurt, and others feel they have to walk on eggshells around you. And if you identify with this, if you relate to the one wounded inner child, the signs I'm talking about, just send me a comment in the chat, or if you have any questions, send me a comment in the chat as well. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, right? The first one is you are easily wounded and hurt, and others feel they have to walk on eggshells around you. You don't have a strong sense of identity. The wounded inner child, you don't have a strong sense of identity. Now, some people would say, I don't know who I am, right? I don't know my purpose. I don't know where life is taking me. This is all a part of the wounded inner child. When you don't have a sense of identity, you don't know who you are. And for the people who are joining me right now, we are reading the book, The Inner Child Workbook, right? The Inner Child Workbook. Let me turn this light off to see if it will be less bright. Oh, yes, I actually like that more. Here you go. The Inner Child Workbook. What to do with your past when it just won't go away. Here you go. What to do with your past when it just won't go away. Right? You feel inadequate as a man or a woman. The signs of the wounded inner child. You are unforgiving to yourself, rigid, and a perfectionist. Right? If you go on my Instagram, you would see I posted a definition of what a perfectionist is. Most of us who came from a traumatic background, um, traumatic household, traumatized as a child, we have that perfectionist idea of how to do things, right? Of who we are supposed to be. So we have this rigid idea simply because what? Our parents had a rigid idea of who we are supposed to be as their children, right? So you have deep abandonment issues and would cling to relationships even when they are toxic. Signs of a wounded inner child. You don't trust yourself. You experience anxiety when going out of your comfort zone. You deliberately like being in conflict with people around you. So there are people who love drama. There are people who are always around chaos. I was one of those people. I have lived that life, which is why I am able to talk about this issue, right? I have been there. So you don't trust yourself. You have development abandonment issues and would cling to relationships even when they are toxic. If and when they are toxic. So many a time, most of us are in toxic relationships. If you identify with that, send a comment in the chat. Ask your question. Let me know what your experience has been and we can talk about it. I have been in so many toxic relationships myself, but then I had to understand that the relationships that I was in is a photocopy, is exactly the type of family that I came from, right? So my family and the way that I was raised and the things that I went through in that family is exactly the type of relationships I have had or the type of relationships that I have been to. Let me put my camera together for Facebook. All right, so what is the next sign of the wounded inner child? Right, we talked about that. You don't trust yourself. You experience anxiety when going out of your comfort zone. You deliberately like being in conflict with people around you. You need external validation. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. You go to all the wrong places looking for love. You attract emotionally unavailable people, right? TikTok, this is my first time live here, but on my Instagram, I have been live there and I have talked about how personally for me, right? My father's a wonderful man, but he was emotionally unavailable. And because he was emotionally unavailable, I continuously attracted and let men into my life who were emotionally unavailable. So that's another thing. I attracted friends who were emotionally unavailable. That's how you know the type of trauma you have and the type of family that you're from, right? If you are in toxic relationships, if you're surrounded by chaos, if you are surrounded by people who do not have your best interests at heart, if you continuously attract friends and romantic partners who are what? Emotionally unavailable, then you know that this is the type of family that you're from a traumatic family. Sometimes in psychology, it's called adverse childhood experiences or childhood trauma. let's go on before we read the book. You feel that there is something wrong with you in the deepest parts of yourself, right? Do you continuously feel in your heart that something is wrong with you, that nobody understands you, right? You feel nobody understands you. You don't belong in anywhere. You, please, said, uh, you don't belong anywhere. You feel there is something wrong with you in the deepest parts of your soul. That is a wounded inner child, right? The child in you, when you were a child, there were things that you needed in your childhood that wasn't satisfied, from love, from hugs, from validation, right? From your parents just letting you know that you are good enough. These are things you never had. Let's move on. You are a people pleaser. This is another sign of the wounded in the child. You are a people pleaser. You do not want anybody to hate you. You want everybody to like you, right? You are on Instagram, you are on Facebook, you are on TikTok, and you want to create a brand, you want to talk to people, maybe you sell something, you have ideas of things that you want to do, but you are stuck wondering, what are people going to think about me, what are people going to say about me? I was that person who was constantly scared and afraid of, what am I going to do? What are people going to say about me? Will people like me? People pleaser. You do everything and anything for people to love you. Forgetting that no matter what you believe in, if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in Muhammad, if you believe in King Selassie, like Rastafari, if you believe in the ancestors, all of these people have been criticized and people have tried to break their soul down. So we cannot satisfy everybody. But if you were raised in a traumatizing environment and you were constantly seeking validation, trying to get your parents to see you, to love you, to understand you, to want you, then you become what? You become a people pleaser. And there's a way out of that. Let's go on. You are a hoarder of things, emotions, people, and you have a hard time letting go. Are you a hoarder? Now, I didn't know about emotional hoarder. I just knew about people who would hoard things at home, right? I on Instagram and other places I have talked about my last situationship, right? And that guy that I was with. Hi, lady Simone. Simone is unique. Simone is unique. I have to always remember not to say Simon. Simone is unique, right? We are continuing the conversation on Inner Child Workbook, right? And the topic for today is step one. Hello, identifying your pain. Identifying your pain, right? And so I was going through the signs of a wounded inner child, and I was talking about you are a hoarder of things, emotions, people, and you have a hard time letting go. Like I was saying, I never knew that there was an emotional hoarder. But the emotional hoarder is basically the person who maybe hold grudges, who hold things within, who cannot communicate freely, right? Who might have something to say at work, talk to authority, talk to people around them, talk to friends and relatives. But the things that they want to say, they cannot say. I was this person. But I always knew about the people who hoard things at home. You hoard toys, you buy antiques, you have different furniture from papers and clothes because you're just scared of letting them go because one day you might need them. you cannot let go, like it says, and you have a hard time letting go. When you see this in a man or in a woman, there's something wrong, right? I grew up with a family who we didn't really hoard things, but emotionally things were hoarded. I met a guy in my last situationship. I call it that. I didn't know that was a thing. And he would hoard everything. See the plastic bowls, depending on where you are, if you are in the States or in Europe, whatever, and you go to the 99-cent stores or the grocery stores, you have these packs of the plastic bowls. He had them all over his kitchen, and I was like, why do you need all of these things right now? If my vetting skills were strong, if I understood toxicity, if at that point I had worked on my relationship trauma from my childhood and from my parents, it would have become apparent to me that he wasn't a healed man, even though he was grown up. Beautiful, love your earrings. Thank you, thank you. I'm going all Rastafarian today, right? Going back to the culture. I love it, I love it. It's about Rastafarian today, right? It was Rita Marley's birthday not long ago, Bob Marley's wife, right? So we're representing, right? So as I was saying, if I understood all these red flags, if I could see, hi Norsayam, hi the Woman Empowerment Brand, if I could see all these issues, if I could see all these red flags, if I knew in my heart and in my soul that these were red flags, that hoarding is a red flag, from emotions to things to everything is a red flag, I wouldn't have been with him, right? But I just thought he's too busy, he's working a 9 to 5 job, there's no woman in his life, all these things. He has gone through a lot, he needed help. The people pleaser that I was, the woman who was seeking validation, the woman who never had the love from her parents, even though both my parents are alive. I know my mother, I know my father, they are all alive and well, right? But I didn't know that these things were red flags. So maybe you are in a relationship and you're watching me, and your partner is me or is the person who I was with, and you never knew these were red flags. Maybe it is time for you to look back in your childhood of what happened to you. I always say that when we see people acting out, or we see people, you know, having different issues, having temper tantrums, adults, grown adults, they might be addicts, and we think what is wrong with them, we need to change that language to what happened to them. And I got this language from Oprah Winfrey because she wrote a book with a doctor. I need to get that book so we can read it after this one, right? We're reading this one now, but I'll possibly get that book so we can read it too. And Oprah would always say that we need to change our language from what's wrong with you or what's wrong with them to what happened to them, because we never know what somebody is going through or what somebody went through in their childhood. And we see them acting out in the street, maybe dressing in ways that we don't understand or we are not with, or they have a particular mindset or a particular belief about life, about themselves, about how to do things. And we are continuously saying, what is wrong with this person? No, nothing is wrong with them. Just like the prompt said, you feel that there is something wrong with you. Or you feel that there's something wrong with everybody and everybody needs to change. But who? But yourself. I was that person. I thought everybody around me needed to change, not seeing that I was the one who needed to change. That's another red flag. If you think everybody needs to change but yourself, or you are with somebody who thinks that they can never do anything wrong and everybody around them needs to change but them, that's a red flag too, right? You constantly criticize yourself for your supposed inadequacy. Do you think you're stupid? Do you think you're dumb? Do you think something's wrong with you? Do you think everybody's stupid? Do you think people are dumb? Do you constantly tell yourself, what is wrong with me? I just cannot get this right. I need to give up. I can't do this anymore. I always talk about learned helplessness. If you don't know what that is, please look it up. Learned helplessness, right? Thinking that there's nothing you can do to change your situation. That the only thing you can do is just to give up. So you just give up. You don't try anymore because you've tried over and over and nothing worked. But then what is the voice in your head? What do you tell yourself every day? You have a hard time committing and trusting. Is it difficult for you to trust people? Is it difficult for you to commit to any project, not even to a human being, but to a project? Do you have a problem being consistent, starting a project, committing to it, and completing it? I had a problem with that. I had an issue with that. So what I'm doing now is trying to break that cycle of not being able to commit to the projects that I start, right? And there's also the issue of getting bored with a partner quickly. I was that person too. So I always say the things that I talk about, not only did I live, but I also studied them because I studied psychology. I studied black psychology as well, right? And these are real things. These are feelings. These are pains that a lot of people happen. But because society generally either look down on mental health issues, or people in general just throw the word trauma, throw the word depression, throw the word narcissism lightly everywhere, a lot of people don't believe in that anymore. And then some of us in our families and in our societies, in our environments, we are being told to suck it up and move on. Suck it up and move on with life and go on with life. And I am telling you, if you are a man, if you are a woman, don't just suck it up. Reflect. Look back in your childhood, right? Healing is a thing. Healing is an actual thing that you can do. Therapy is helpful, is a thing, but it all depends on how you go about it. I have been into therapy for 2 years. So I have experienced the process of therapy. And so it depends on the type of therapist you get. But it also depends on you as a person, how willing you are to heal whatever happened to you in your childhood. The last prompt, you are afraid of being hurt. Do you think that everything and everyone is against you and you are going to get hurt and people are going to hurt you, so you are defensive? I was that person. I was defensive to everybody and everything. Why? Because my entire childhood, either I wasn't understood, I didn't feel like I belonged, right? Or I was hurt. Because if you're traumatized from your childhood, you are hurt. And so you grow up being defensive, not wanting to get hurt, wanting to change who you are, but not knowing what to do. And this is what we tackle, right? Because for me, my healing journey was very painful. And the reason that it was painful is I did not have an environment that understood these things. I did not have an environment that talk about these issues. I couldn't talk to my parents about healing. I couldn't talk to my parents about my mental health. When I started talking about my trauma, they shut down, right? So I began to see the cycles that I was living, where it came from. Because I would shut down. I used to shut down about everything. Now, when I started doing these lives, right, this is my first time on TikTok, but I have been doing the lives on my Instagram as well as my YouTube. People would tell me, oh, you communicate so well, you read so eloquently, and all of these things, but that wasn't so for me. It took me years to be able to sit here and talk about these issues. I have been on my spiritual journey for about 9 years. I went to school for psychology, black history, Afrocentric consciousness, right? Why? Because most of us, as melanated people, sorry, I always kick this camera. My legs are so long. Guys, I am 5'10". So when I try to stretch my legs, I always kick this camera. Because most of us, either we've never been taught our history, we have never been told what life is about, we've never been told who we are. So I went back to school particularly to know myself. But I get exhausted with school. I was supposed to graduate this semester, but they told me, oh, they made a mistake and something happened. So I have to go back for another semester in fall. And I'm like, I will read the books and go to other campuses instead of go back for another semester because you made a mistake. I don't want to do that anymore. So let me read this, right? We're going to read The Inner Child Workbook, What to Do with Your Past When It Just Won't Go Away. And we started the book on Instagram and YouTube. And so those who are on TikTok, you can just click the link in my bio for my YouTube and Instagram if you want to see the beginning of the book. So we are talking today is about step 1, identifying your pain. Your first task for each age, will be to identify the pain you carry from that stage of development. Ooh. Oh my God. That just went off. TikTok just went boom. Okay, let me see how I can go back and zigzag. Let's see how I can get that again. That is a terrible phone. But we will get this together. Hello, I am a billionaire. Yes, you are a billionaire. I love that name. I am a billionaire. I'm trying to get back my TikTok application that I did. Oh, it's here. TikTok Studio. Hello, Queen. Hello, you too. Right? I love that name. I am billionaire Bree. Yes, you are a billionaire.
Wow.
Yes, we are a billionaire. Yeah, go put that down, baby.
I'm
Right?
gonna get ready for the live
So
so
just
we can
give me a few moments because my TikTok just went off. And so I am just going back live on there, and then I will continue reading Step 1, identifying your pain from the inner child workbook, right, which we started a few days ago. I think today is the second day, right? And the TikTok phone just went off. Pause due to poor connection, right? So I'm just going live here. Or as I wait for it, I'll just read this, and then when it loads, I can get that back together. So your first task for each age will be to identify the pain you carry from that stage of development. Now, if you know childhood development, it's stages. But depending on how you were raised, what you were told, right? The things that you were allowed to do or not to do, you have never, ever experienced those developments, or you've never understood those developments. I have talked about in the last lives that I did on both Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I have talked about how many people, many children, in their childhood, they have never been told, or their parents have never explained the process of puberty, both men and women, right? Our parents did not tell us what would happen to us in each stage, why our hormones. Okay, continue live. Okay, we were not told go live. Oh, I don't know, what is this? What happened? Sorry. No cover. Yes, that's the one. Give me a moment. I am so sorry here. You know, I'm figuring I'm figuring this out. And so, okay, so let it go live now. What's stopping it? Oh, choose a topic. Okay. Education. Let's do education over here. Okay. All right. Sorry. Can I add you, please? Add you where? Why would I add you on the live? You have a reason for joining the live? Send me a message. Let's talk about it. And you can tell me what you would do or what you would talk about. Can you, I don't know if, I'm just going to continue, child. I don't understand what's going on over here on TikTok, right? You know what I can do? I have my iPad here, right, people? Please allow me. I promise you, I will give you a wonderful, wonderful live today. I will give you a wonderful live today, and it is going to be beautiful. Okay, it is ended there. Beautiful. Let me turn this off. So I will read the book. I promise to give you 2 hours of my time today. Simply because, simply because of this issue, right? Facebook, give me a moment. Let me move the camera down and then we will continue. I'm still here, Facebook. I'm just moving the camera down. Baby girl, I told you when I'm live, I can't talk, right? I will be done, my love. When I'm done, we can talk about the groceries that you want to get. I'm trying to fix this. There's people watching me and waiting for me. Okay? Okay, sister? What? No, you can use your phone. You can take the phone. Because it's not working anymore. Where's the charger? Okay.
I need a charger. It's not working. It's only 3%.
Okay, you will have to figure it out, baby girl. I cannot help you with it not right now. Okay? Alright. Forgive me. Hello, TikTok. I am back. Forgive me for that. Right? I'm trying to figure all of this out, and I have no idea where to place this. How about I try to place it here? Would that be good enough for you? That should be good. It's a little too close and very bright, but you can see me, right? Can you see me and hear me? So we're going to continue the conversation. So now I have everything together, right? Okay. What is it telling me to do? It's very bright. I'm trying to change it. I cannot change it. I don't know where to press. Okay, I'm back, right? And we were talking about, I was starting to read the book, The Inner Child Workbook, right? I started reading it already, and then the phone just went off, right? So for today, it's going to be like this, but I promise you, I will do the setup a lot better tomorrow. TikTok. So I go live Monday to Friday at 11 a.m., but I'll probably change it to 10 o'clock, right? And then it will be better. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to read the book, right? So we are healing. If you are into healing, or if you want to heal, right? TikTok, this is your first time. And so if you have been wondering, or maybe if you've been wondering how to heal, it's so fascinating. People just try to join. Okay, let's go ahead and read The Inner Child Workbook. Step 1, identifying your pain. Your first task for each age will be to identify the pain you carry from that stage of development, right? From that stage of development. I started explaining on TikTok, because before everything went off, that in childhood there are different stages of development. But then some of us, our parents or our environment or the people that we are raised with, have never told us even the stages of puberty. Be it a man, be it a woman, you don't know what the stages of puberty is. You've never went through those stages to understand right? Your energy, your power as a man or a woman. What happens with the changes of your hormones? What happens with the changes of your body? Why you feel the things that you feel at that age that you are in? So there are different stages of childhood, from 0 to 4, from 5 to 10, from 10 to 15, from 15 to 20, right? There are different things that you need to learn, or there are different things that we needed to learn that our parents never taught us. So in to heal yourself, to heal your ancestors, right? To understand who you are, to know your purpose in life, you would need to go back to those stages and understand when you were from 0 to 5, or to make it easy, from 0 to 8 years old, because in psychology and child development, that's how it's talked about. From 0 to 8 years old, where did you live? What happened to you? How were you raised? What are the things that was told to you? What were you able to do or not do? Who could you not be? What are the things that you wanted to do in your life as a child that you could not do? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself, and you need to understand. I got it. That's a lot better here right now for TikTok, right? So, to begin, it is necessary to understand what tasks were to be mastered at that stage. And each stage's introduction contains this information. Like I was saying, right, in every stage in your life, in your childhood, even as an adult, even as a grown up, we go through different stages in life as an adult. And it's the same thing for childhood. I don't know much about men. I do understand more when it comes to women. If you are a woman and you're watching this and you're trying to tap into your femininity, you might have to go all the way back to your childhood to see what are the things you wanted to do that are feminine, childlike as a woman, that you were not able to do. Because, for example, how I'm dressing, everything I'm wearing, these are things that I have always loved as a child. But I grew up being told these were too much, right? I am growing my locks. I wanted to do locks as a child. But then at that point, I didn't understand what? I didn't understand the stereotypes of Rastafarian, right? But as black people, as melanated people, there is a lot of stereotypes that follow us, right? So understanding this is understanding why were you told the things that you could do or could not do as a child, because it all has something to do with it. It all has something to play with it. Like when it comes to locks, as children, I've seen it in most places where you cannot have locks and go to work because it is considered unprofessional. And so this is important to go back to that time. And what was it that your parents told you? I have known some people who had to cut their locks to go to work. This can all traumatize somebody, right? So there are developmental stages as children that we needed to go through that we never went through. In my other lives, I talked about when it came to women, particularly our moon cycles that were never taught. Your parents, maybe, I don't know about you, but for me, I know that my parents never told me how to cleanse myself, how to take care of myself. when I am on my moon cycle. Did you ever experience that? And so if you did experience that and you relate to this and you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and I will respond to it. It is, we're not structured, right? It's not just one way of doing things. So you will also find a discussion of the childhood needs that were fulfilled if you had successfully mastered the task, as well as an explanation of how mastering these tasks prepares you for the next developmental stage. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the term arrested development. If you have, please let me know in the chat as well. Arrested development, which is what happens to most grown-ups, unfortunately, where we're grown as adults, right? But unfortunately, mentally and emotionally, we're still acting and thinking and behaving like we are back in our teenage years. We are back in our younger years. We are constantly looking back in the past. I was this person. This is the person I used to be. And what? We can't move on. Arrested development can do this to you, where somebody is 50 and they are still stuck at whatever trauma that happened to them when they were 20. This happens a lot to people, right? So let's go on. Examples are included that illustrate the application of the 6-step formula. So we are going through the 6-step formula, and the fourth step that we are on now is identifying your pain, knowing and understanding your pain. The first exercise is how you respond today. Today, how you respond. The first exercise, how you respond today, asks you to respond to a series of statements that will help determine how past pain influences your current life. Let me ask you, do you feel like you are on autopilot? Do you ever feel like you could do more, you could be more, but you just don't know what is happening and why you are still at the stage that you are on? I know I felt that, right? Some people think that being stuck is a thing, right? Is a thing if you make it a thing. So here it says, the first exercise, how you respond today, asks you to respond to a series of statements that will help determine how past pain influences your current life. Your responses to the statements will help you identify areas you need to explore. There are instructions on how to interpret your responses and how to determine the direction you may need to pursue. Now, let's look at it this way. So some of us feel stuck in our lives. Some of us feel that we cannot go further. So I'm going to the steps now, which is here, identifying your pain, and I'll be reading it out. I always say that being stuck, means that something needs to change in your life. Being stuck means that you are still in the past, but your soul has moved on, but you have not caught up with the new you, with who you are meant to be, right? So for me, hi girl. So for me, what I am doing now, if I didn't take this step to do it will hurt my soul and I would feel stuck. Why? Because mentally, emotionally, my soul is here. But if I was still in the past, as we talked about, worrying about what are people going to say? What are people going to think about me? Would they like how I look? Would they like my accent? Would they like me? Who would listen to me? Good morning, girl. Right? I would feel stuck in the past and that would hurt my soul. So if you feel stuck right now, what is it that you're meant to be that you're not being at this moment? Nobody can give you that answer. You already have that answer. If you feel stuck right now and you know you could be more and you know you could be better and you know there's a lot more that you're supposed to do in your life, the small voice within your soul, what is it saying that you are not listening to? Because your heart will tell you, your soul will tell you, right? It's already there within yourself. Maybe you can't hear it just because of all the noise that's going on. Maybe things are overwhelming. Maybe you've never taken the time to meditate, you've never meditated, or you even think you cannot meditate because there are too much thoughts in your mind, right? If you feel stuck right now, right this moment on this life, and you think to yourself and you know to yourself that you could be somewhere farther, take the time to listen to what your voice, that tiny voice, is telling you. Or maybe there's something that you've been thinking about that you're supposed to do, and you cannot just stop thinking about this. And it just keeps coming up for you. And you're like, nah, I cannot do that. I can't talk about that. Maybe that's something you need to try. For me, right, I have always loved spirituality. I've always loved talking about spirituality. I've always enjoyed African spirituality, right? I wanted to know more. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to actually do African spirituality. But what, in most areas, in most communities, in most environments, either one, talking about God is not cool, or talking about African spirituality is seen as demonic. I know that's the way it was in my family. Hello, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Right? I know this is how it was for me. So I just would never speak about it because I felt, who's going to listen to me? People don't want to talk about this. Nobody wants to know about this. So guess what? I just would never talk about it. And then I realized, I could do more. I could be more. And that's why I am here today. Let's go. So I think I'm going to read the prompt for step 1, identifying your pain. And then we will get into the exercise here, right? So let me continue reading the prompt of identifying your pain. So in the second exercise, how you carry these issues in your life today, you are asked to write in your journal. Do you have a journal? If you don't have a journal is a good thing to have. You can have a journal to write your goals. You can have a journal to get to understand yourself more, right? All prompts you can use. Write in your journal about specific situations in which you may have felt discomfort. For instance, when working with your adolescent self, I ask you to write about a recent time you felt you wanted to rebel. Were you a rebel as a child? I was. I was very rebellious as a child. Would you identify as someone who was rebellious as a child? In the introduction of that chapter, you would have already learned that this rebelliousness is a carryover from your teen years. We talked about it yesterday on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook as well. How being rebellious in your teenage years stems from whatever trauma and whatever issues or whatever happened to you in your younger years. By recognizing it as belonging to your inner teen, you begin to identify the source of the rebelliousness and more accurately assess the current situation that triggered that same need. Drawing on your own responses to questions in these exercises, you then make a list of the weaknesses. Weaknesses. I remember applying for jobs, and we would always be told to write our weaknesses. And I would always write that I don't have a weakness. That in itself is a weakness. I didn't learn that early on. Believing that I don't have any weaknesses, that I could do everything, that I was that powerful, that's trauma. That's a weakness in itself. So you would have to be aware and understand honestly and be honest to yourself, not lie to yourself. I didn't know I was lying to myself, right? I just thought if I said I had no weaknesses, people pleasing, as I mentioned in the prompts, I'll just be hired because they will know I am a strong woman and I can do it all. That's trauma. So drawing on your own responses to questions in these exercises, you then make a list of the weaknesses and strengths you have carried from each developmental stage. Exploring the circumstances that created these will be the focus of your research in step 2. Right. So let's go to the exercise of step 1. We're going deep, guys. We're going deep. We will do all of step 1 today. And I am okay with staying here as long as it takes to complete this because I started late today. I'm still trying to figure out my TikTok. Still trying to figure that out. So TikTok, give me a moment. Everything is falling down, but we'll get it together. So identifying your pain, we're going to do all the exercises, and I'll ask you the questions, right? You can put it in the chat if that is easy for you. If that's not easy for you, right, you can just sit with it. You can just sit with the questions. Of course, I would explain from my own childhood, from what I went through, and you can see if you relate, right? One thing I experienced for myself was that there were a lot of issues that I didn't understand. One example that I can give you is when I heard people talk about triggers. When I was in school, when I first started doing psychology, right, I joined the women's something office. I don't know what it's called anymore. the women's something office. I joined that. Okay, now I have the setup great. And they would constantly talk about triggers during the workshops, and they would say, if you feel triggered, if you hear something that triggers you, let us know, we will help you, and all these things. And I'll be very honest to you, I had no idea what triggers are at that point. I didn't know there was a thing called triggers, right? Because yesterday on Instagram and on YouTube, right, we talked about, I lost my train of thought. We talked about the power of triggers, right? How when you are triggered and you lean into your trigger, it's a powerful thing to help you heal. And we also talked about temper tantrums. So I was one of those people who, right now, people that know me would say, oh, you were so quiet, or you were so calm, or you were so sweet. Some people would say, oh, you were so nice. I was never that person. Was I quiet and calm? I think I always was. But it wasn't because I was quiet and calm. It was because I didn't know what to do with myself in most cases. Right? But then when I get angry, I was never able to control myself. I would just go off in a temper tantrum. But then I didn't know what triggers were. Right? And I hope people that are watching would know what triggers are. At some point, I had to tell my school when they were doing the workshop to take a moment and explain to people, to the students, what triggers are. Because for 2 years in college, they were talking about triggers. If you get triggered, they were talking about all these things. And I was in every workshop. And I had no idea what I was feeling was actually the trigger that they are talking about. But because nobody explained what the trigger is, right, I would just blow up during the workshops, right? I couldn't control my emotions. So for me, the things I talk about triggers a lot of people. From Turkey. Hi from Turkey. Welcome. Pleasure to see you. Now, again, because I didn't know what triggers are, I didn't understand that I was triggering to a lot of people, and the conversations that I was having triggered many people. Right? So, but if you're watching me, if you relate to the things that I talk about, if you feel triggered, if you feel hot, if you feel like, oh, what is she talking about? That is fine. Or if you think she doesn't know what she's saying, that is fine too, right? Just sit with it and have an open mind. You don't have to believe anything I tell you. I even tell this to my daughter. You don't have to believe what I tell you, but you can try it in your life to see if it's helpful. Let's start the exercises, right? If you have a pen and paper, that is wonderful. If I talk about something you don't understand, again, feel free to write it in the chat. So step 1, identifying your pain. We're doing the exercise. Even though these years were quite psychologically, even though these years were quite psychologically, they were very active socially. If you have any problems with fitting in, with looking like a fool, that's me. I'm going to read that again. If you have any problems with fitting in, which is belonging, with looking like a fool, as I mentioned, with feeling like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm so dumb, or performing in public, or difficulty completing professional or personal tasks, right? We mentioned this yesterday, but we talked about this earlier. Commitments, committing to a project, completing a project. You might have issues with that. I've always had an issue with that. You will have at least one and perhaps more than one inner child from this stage who will need healing. Maybe at home things were unpredictable. Maybe mommy never started and completed anything. Maybe daddy just was in and out, in and out. Nothing was continuous enough, right? You didn't see your parents show love to each other, commitment to each other in a healthy fashion. Because they can be committed to be each other, be with each other, have a long-term marriage, but the marriage itself is toxic and traumatizing. Remember, these years established the foundation on which your adolescence was built. If you were unable to fit in, the awkwardness you would have experienced as a young teen would have been that much more devastating. Do you relate? My not fitting in as a child was painful. I always felt awkward. I always felt I needed to look better. I needed to dress better to fit in with the friends that I was with. That didn't mean I didn't look good. I looked good. That was me. I looked good. I dressed well. I smelled good. But I never felt that I belonged in any group of friends, right? If you were unable to master the task of completing projects, your study habits and acceptance of structure in adolescence would have been poor. Did you have a structure growing up? Was there any structure at home? Were your parents structured in the way that they do things? Not rigid, not strict, right? But structured enough for you to understand how to have structure in your life, where you don't feel overwhelmed with everything, where you don't feel like your life is your life is all over the place. Because that was me, right? I always felt, let's put it this way. Do you feel chaotic? Do you feel that you're always surrounded with chaos and you yourself are chaotic in the way that you do things? I was chaotic, very chaotic, all over the place. If you feel that, it's because one, your thoughts are all over the place. Your thoughts, right, are chaotic in themselves. You cannot calm your mind. You are on autopilot. That's me too. Yes, Nina, me and you are like this. Right? That stems from somewhere, because it had to come from somewhere. You are not just that way because you want to be that way. All right? So one of the other things that I do is also to validate. Because if you were traumatized, that means nobody ever validated your feelings the way that you needed it as a child. So let's move on. I feel good. If you were unable to master the task of completing projects, your study habits and acceptance of structure in adolescence would have been poor. If you never establish a comfortable identity within your peer group, as I was talking about, during adolescence, you would have found it difficult to establish an identity. Nina, we were talking about this yesterday, right? About how um, as a child, things were good, but then during our adolescence, we just went crazy. I wonder if you relate to this part as well. If you never establish a comfortable identity within your peer group, it could also be hanging out with the wrong people. I did that my entire life up until now, and not knowing that this is what was hurting me. I didn't know that the groups and the people that I was attracting and the people that I was around was what was hurting me and my identity. You needed to identify with and be accepted by those of the same age. When the second stage of declaring your independence surfaces in adolescence, you need a strong connection with your peers so that you can successfully separate, which is boundaries, right? Boundaries. I always talk about how boundaries is not for other people. We are not having healthy and strong boundaries so that people don't disturb us, or so that we can drive away people and it's for other people. No, boundaries is for us to be able to control ourselves. Boundaries is for our own mental well-being. Boundaries is for our own health and wellness, right? Because for example, where I live, it's a wonderful environment, right? But when I first moved here, I didn't understand that because I was from a toxic home, from a traumatizing home, that I was attracted to toxicity. And I always say that toxicity is exciting because of that underlying pumping. If you are an underlying junkie, you love that high, right? I was that person and I didn't even know it, because this is how I watched my parents to be, right? This is my first time on TikTok, but I have constantly talked about how my childhood, my entire childhood, I was spanked. Some people call it whooping. In my part of the world, we call it beating. I'll beat you up. Your parents would beat you up. So that in itself is an underline, because it puts you in a constant high. Let's move on. When the second stage of declaring your independence surfaces in adolescence, you need a strong connection with your peers so that you can successfully separate, right? And over there, what I was trying to say is that being here, I got immersed in the life, be part of the everyday life, right? Hanging around the wrong people, and I didn't know that I was around the wrong people. And if we go back to the prompts, I thought something was wrong with me, and not necessarily that I need to separate myself from the group that I was around. And also the fact that I needed boundaries for my own health and well-being. Because what boundaries help us do is being able to know where the feelings, ideas, thoughts of someone else starts and end, and where ours start and end, right? If you're not able to know that in psychology or in psychotherapy, or all of that is the enmeshment. So as a child, if there was no boundaries at home, this part is difficult to do, being able to successfully separate, right? My family, everything was immersed. Some of us experienced that, where you don't have your independence, you don't have your privacy. The things that our parents tell us, this is my house, you can't be alone, it's my rules, They search your room, they search your bag, they search your closet, they search everything, right? You did not have any sense of independence, any sense of your own identity. So you couldn't separate how you felt from what your parents felt, how you thought, your ideas. You couldn't separate it from your parents' ideas, right? Some of our parents are obsessive. So it goes back to the separation too. Abandonment issues. My parents, my mother particularly, was very obsessive. My grandmother too, God rest her soul, was very obsessive. So I grew up being immersed and completely obsessed with the men that I was dating. Some men love that, some men don't, right? Some men love women who are obsessed with them. Some men is suffocating for them. The same goes for women as well. Some women love when a man is truly obsessed with them. Some women feel suffocated for that. But when you are able to separate, then you know when to be obsessed and when to pull back your energy, right? That's the thing. But if you're not able to pull back your energy, I didn't know that that was actually a thing that you do, because I've never seen it happen. My mother, especially, was very obsessive up until my adulthood that I am speaking. We're not in contact now, right? I didn't explain that with TikTok, but I've explained it on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as well, right? That I had to separate from my family for me to get back my sense of identity, for me to heal, right now as a grown woman. I hate phone calls, but my business and what I do and the products that I sell, which is part of my health and well-being, I need to talk to people on the phone. But even doing this journey, working this journey of sharing what I know and what I have learned and the messages that come to me, I have to connect with people, right? And sometimes the things that I ask for in the universe, people would have to call me. Or the community that I am in, which is Girl Hold My Hand, there are times, because I'm talking about these issues, people would want to talk. We have a community in a community, people would have to talk. But because I came from a very obsessive environment, and there was a time that my mom would call me, guys, I am not lying. My mother would call me 10 to 15 times in one day to talk about the same issue over and over. She would call me and we would talk, and I would tell her, okay, I need to go take a shower, or I need to go out, or I need to work, or I need to rest, or I need to clean, I need to do something, and she would hang up. 5 minutes later, she would call back. And I'm like, what is it? And it's, well, I just think, I'm like, don't you have any friends? You need friends, people to talk to. Your age. Have you ever mothered your parents? Were you your parents' mother instead of them being your parents? Were you their parents? Did you have to take the role of the adult, right? Because I had to take the role of the adult. At some point, the way that I'm talking to you here, that's the way I had to talk to my mother. So I became her mother instead of her being my mother. That can traumatize you as well. Some children at an early age, they had to be the caretaker in the family. Immersion, so immersed, everything is just like that. It's like coffee and sugar. Stir it and then you can't separate, you don't know. Let's move on. I can talk about this forever. Somebody told me we should stream longer. We'll try it one day. In the following 2 exercises, you will assess the damage that was done during these years. Identifying the pain carried into your adult life will give the information you need to begin your work. Exercise 1. How you respond today. The list of statements below, right? There's a list of statements. I don't know if it will. Okay, Instagram can see. Okay, you can see that there. All right. There's a list of statements. The list of statements below will help you determine what problems you may have with relationships, with peers, public speaking. One of my biggest issues. Somebody would say, oh, but you're doing great. Yeah. But hey, it took a long journey. All right, public speaking, beginning and completing projects, and your comfort with competition. Right there. Do you feel how you respond today? Yes. Do you feel that you always are in a competition? And sometimes you don't even know why you are in a competition. You don't know why you are competing. You don't know how you are competing. That was me, right? Always in a competition, even when I don't want to be in a competition. But because I was an autopilot and I grew up in a very competitive environment. Some people say women are always competing. No, women are not always competing. Traumatized women are always competing. Healed women, right, who are on the boss level, who are on about their money, who have their life together, collaborate with each other. We come together, we work together, we make each other better. As somebody who was always competing, I can tell you that not all women compete. There is something that happens to the women who are constantly competing with each other in a toxic way, because we are always in competition with ourselves, with who we used to be, right? Who you used to be yesterday, you want to be better today. So you are in competition with yourself and not the next woman. Okay. You may find that you often feel the ways described below, but have no memory of discomfort from this age. If this is the case, do not be alarmed. It is common for the effects of these unmastered skills to go unnoticed until a situation brings them into view. For some of you, this might be that situation, that is shedding light of the discomfort you've had, of the confusion, of the overwhelm, of the chaos, of the stuckness. And I've prayed to be here today to do that. And so I am grateful to Divine, to the Most High, to my ancestors for making that happen. For instance, you may have been able to get by in school even though you were not able to complete tasks. efficiently because your school system was negligent in monitoring your progress. Your problem may not have your problem may not have become apparent until later when you flunked out of college for poor study habits. Well, lost the job because you were unable to meet deadlines. Well, I'm kind of leaving college, school, tired of the assignments, right? And then expecting to graduate this year, this semester. But then they came back to me and said, oh, we made a mistake in how we evaluated your college degree. So you need another semester. And I'm like, hell no. Hell to the no, 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 no. Because I created my degree, right? My bachelor's degree is Afrocentric consciousness. And so I was like, I'll just continue reading the books, going to the workshops and the seminars, right? And following the ancestors that left a trail, a path for us, for me to learn, rather than taking another semester just because you made a mistake. Nah, I would rather drop out. Right? So let's move on. The original issue will still relate back to this time. However, it will also still be this inner child who would need help developing the self-discipline and internal structure needed to succeed. And this is true. This is true, right? Internal structure, the self-discipline and internal structure needed to succeed. That is 100% true. The discipline to keep going. I always talk about learn helplessness, right? The discipline to keep going. The discipline and the self-control to commit. The discipline and the self-control to be consistent in what you do. If you are on my other platforms that has a banner, good afternoon. Let's transform Brandy. Yes. Right? That's a discipline, right? Which is why I always talk about the communities that I am a part of. Because I needed to be around people. Yes, yes, ma'am. I see the hearts. Yes, ma'am. Representing, right? It was Rita Marley's birthday a few days ago, Bob Marley's wife. And so I talk about the groups that I am in because I needed to be around men and women who were going somewhere, who were consistent. I got to go, Empress, but thank you as always. I'll catch the replay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll be here tomorrow again, right, to do step 2. Have a wonderful day, right? And so I needed the community and the people. So many a time, most of us think that you two enjoy your day. Most of us think that we could do it on our own. We don't need a community. We don't need help. We don't need coaches. I'm not a coach, so don't worry about it. You don't need coaches. You don't need a teacher to help you with your journey, right? I can tell you that's not so. I'm from a family that thought they could do everything on their own, that they didn't need help. So I grew up believing that I didn't need any help. I could do it by myself. I could do everything by myself. I just talked about it and explained it in terms of what? Applying for a job. And when they say write your weakness, correct, I had to realize I needed a community. Yes, ma'am, right? right? So in the applications, when they say write your what is your weakness or where do you need to improve, I would say what? I don't have any weaknesses. I can do anything. I can do everything. Not knowing that that was my trauma talking. So now I am part of the real world, which is more of a digital campus. Everything money. Why? Because I had a money trauma. And for years I thought I didn't need to learn about money, that I knew about money, that I was doing good, even though I knew I wasn't doing good, but I didn't know what I needed to learn about money. So I joined the real world to learn about money, to learn about content creation. And being in that place really killed my ego of thinking I knew it all because I didn't know about content creation, right? And then I'm a part of who? Girl Hold My Hand. Why? Because I needed those type of women. I also needed to see a woman who looked like me, who was talking about these issues in a way that would relate deep in my soul for me to say, oh, she looks like me and she's talking about this. And that was Coach Stormy for me to understand that. When it came to relationships, right, I needed to listen to different coaches, different people. Yes, girl, hold my hand. Different people who talked about how men felt, how men were thinking. And I mentioned it yesterday as who? From Corporate 8 to R.C. Blake's to Stefan. Stefan Speaks. He's on YouTube, right? And when it came to women as well, I had to listen to different women talk about this. So we need coaches, we need healthy communities, and most times, some of us, we would have to separate from our family to get the community that we need. Which is why I always say that my vision and my goal is to create a home for those who never felt at home. Because I know how it feels to not feel at home. But at home is within ourselves. Read each statement carefully, then respond accordingly. Record any thoughts or feelings in your journal. Allow approximately 30 minutes for this exercise, unless marked by an asterisk. I don't know how to pronounce that. A response of either extreme can indicate a need to repair. All right, so let's go in the questions. Let me open page 39 and 42. Yeah, right, so identifying your pain, your purpose. The statement in this, well, let's just go into the questions, right? Safety. Safety. I do not feel I have a right to ask others to meet my needs. Do you relate to that? Do you relate to that? I see the hearts going in on TikTok, right? So somebody relates to that. I do not feel I have a right to ask others to meet my needs. And the book, it gives you always, often, sometimes, rarely, never. For me, the time that I started reading the book, it was always. And that has to do with our self-worth. Do you feel that you are worthy of telling someone what you need and then they take care of your needs? Do you feel that you are worthy of getting everything you want in life and having your dreams come true? Because in order to have your dreams come true, you need your needs met. And in order to get your needs met, what you need to open your mouth, you need to talk. You need to talk to people. You need to ask for what you want. I remember for me, there was a time going even uh, to the restaurant. I found it very difficult to tell the waiter or the waitress what I wanted and what I needed. Or if they bring me my order and it wasn't the way I wanted, I will have these heart palpitations just to tell the waiter or the waitress, oh, it wasn't cooked well, or it wasn't the way I wanted it. Can you change it? How do you feel about that? Can you say what you need? Can you say what you want? Were you taught to do that? Or when you said what you needed as a child, what you wanted as a child, was it always brushed off? Did you always had to question your thoughts? Like you say you need something and they say, no, you don't need that. Gaslighting. And you start questioning your own reality. I know that happened to me as a child, right? I would say the things I needed. And my parents would tell me I didn't need it. And I'm like, oh, I don't need that. Feeling close to others frightens you. Being close to people scares the life out of you, which is part of having trust issues. Do you feel like when you get close to people, they're going to leave you? You can't get close to people because they are going to hurt you. You can't love somebody, or you can't show your love because they're going to hurt you or something's going to happen to you. Do you feel unsafe by just having to be close to somebody? How does that happen to you, right? Can you relate to that issue? The next one. I feel a general sense of panic or restlessness. Do you continue to feel that you are panicking? Some people have panic attacks, right? All of this can come from that. Do you panic easily? Like you're losing control? Are you constantly restless? I know I was constantly restless, panicking every chance I got. Let me take my Nutrible shot. I need the vitamins. If you are in need of multivitamins, click the link in my bio, right? Get yourself multivitamins. I use the products I use in line with what I'm talking about. As I mentioned, some of us in our stages of childhood, we were not told the things we needed, how our body is going to change, how we are going to change, right? So restlessness, panic, restlessness. Do you get panic attacks? Are you always panicked? Do you always feel restless? I always felt restless. I was always restless. I couldn't be calm around people alone by myself, I could not calm myself down. Right? So many a time when I wanted to meditate, sometimes, right, I would maybe smoke a little bit of weed and then sit down in meditation, or sit down in contemplation, because it would help me calm down, which is why it's called what? Healing of the nation, right? Because it calms your thoughts. Now, there is substance abuse, there is people who abuse it, there's people who use it for healing. But do you always feel restless? Do you always feel that you need something outside of yourself to help you calm down? Do you need medication? Do you need to constantly be on some type of drugs? Right? For those of us who never call weed a drug, marijuana a drug, some people call it chalice. If you don't consider it a drug, right, but without it you cannot function, then it has become a drug to you to help you calm down. The next one. The world feels like an unsafe and fearful place. Nene, you okay? Okay. The world feels like an unsafe and fearful place. Are you scared of the world? Are you scared of the people in the world? Do you constantly watch the news? Were you raised in a home that constantly watched the news? Were you raised in a way that you are afraid of everything? Don't do this, you are going to hell. Don't do that, you will go to hell. Don't be like this person, you're going to be a horrible person. Right? Do you feel that you cannot live your life because you're scared that at any day the world is going to end? These fearful things that we have been told over and over, right? The world is about to end. Let me ask you this, and I don't know how controversial this is. We're being told the world is about to end, but nobody knows what's going to happen in the next second. Have you ever thought about that? That we all live in the unknown, and nobody knows what's going to happen the next second. Nobody knows when they are going to die. Nobody can remember the day that they were born. How can we tell that the world is about to end? Do you live in fear? Do you think that the earth, the world, is not a safe place to be in? In my other lives, I talk about, I like saying in my other lives, right? Because it can be being life, but also in the metaphysical world, right? We live different lives. I talked about how Muji Baba, I don't know if anybody knows Muji. If you don't know Muji, please look him up, right? Muji would always talk about 8 billion people. We live on one earth, but we each have a different world. And so we think we're living in one world, and we all see things the same. Some of us would say, oh, well, people are different. But do we really know it deep in our soul that as human beings we are the same, but we each have a different interpretation of the world? So we're each living a different world. right? I hope that's making sense. We are each live in a different world. The world feels like an unsafe and fearful place, right? Have you ever wondered why at the scene of a event or whatever happened, a situation, you have 5 witnesses. Each witness has a different story of what happened, right? One person, me, how the people on Instagram are hearing me and listening to me is different. Each person, right? TikTok, the people who are watching me and listening to me, each one of you has a different interpretation of what I am saying. Facebook and YouTube, the same thing. You all look at me differently, you all see me differently, right? Even the pictures that I am seeing on myself on each device is very different. I look different in each one. Different world, but we live on one earth, right? But when we watch television, when we watch the news, when we listen to people, it seems like we are all living in the same world, but we are not. And then some people tell you, how can you be alive and not watch the news? But there's a lot of us that don't even have televisions or don't even use televisions. I've been to my friend's house, right? And she has a television, but there's no cable connected. They don't watch the news. The television is more of a plaything, like they can lift it up and carry it. So whenever they want to have family time, or sometimes maybe it's the time for the kids to play a game, then they use the television, right? So you think for yourself, is your TV using you or are you using the TV? In one of Jim Ron, I don't know, like I hope most of you know Jim Ron. If you don't know Jim Ron, please look him up. Please look him up. And he was in one of his lectures, he was talking about how he was asking a guy, how much does your television cost? And the guy said his television cost, I don't know, maybe $400, $500. And Jim Ron told him, no, you got the cost wrong. Because the television, right, might cost you anywhere from $1,400 or maybe even $1,500 a month. I'm paraphrasing, but look for that lecture. Because the time it takes you to sit down and watch your television, the time it takes you to sit down and watch Netflix and watch the movies and watch every movie that comes out and watch every program that's on television, watch the housewives of whatever, right? Watch the reality TVs, right? Have you ever noticed that when you put on your television, what do they say? That your programming is about to start. Your programming. So you are being told that you are being programmed while you sit there and wait for them to program you. I'm gonna digress. But just to reiterate, right? The world feels like an unsafe and fearful place. I fear being touched or touching others, physical touch, because that's part of maybe some kind of trauma. I fear being touched or touching others, right? When I did it, I put really you will see that, you know, I started it on my own. I put rarely, but even for mine, it was trauma as well, right? Because I was okay. No, I was too okay. Hello, sir. I was going to send you a message, and I'm going to say, I'm talking about spirits of caring. I'm going to say before we did the process that you told me about. Wait until you speak to the guy. Maybe he left. I don't know. Wait until you speak to the guy on the phone first. He said he will call you, and then we'll go ahead with the process. If you can hear me, fine. If not, I'll still message you and tell you about it. So as I was saying, right, I mentioned how I came from a very obsessive family. So I was always obsessive about things and people. I was channeling it in the wrong direction. When I was able to channel it more onto my spirituality and my purpose and my work and doing this, of course, it became more fulfilling, right? So I was okay with physical touch. I was okay with touching people. I was okay with people touching me. It didn't matter. But for mine, it was extreme because of my trauma. But for some people, they just cannot stand people touching them or them touching other people. You can figure out too where that came from. How did it happen? Were you ever hugged as a child? Right? There's hugging. Well, how can I explain it? Sometimes somebody hugs you and you feel and you know they're not really hugging you. They're just doing that. And sometimes somebody hugs you and you can feel relaxed. You can feel their energy. You can feel their love and their joy for being around you, for being intimate, for touching you, for being close to you. Right? You can feel it. So I was hugged as a child, but the hug for me, it just felt like it wasn't a hug. Right? So when you're looking for validation, when you're needing love, when you're needing that touch, it was missing. But also, if you are on the other extreme of just not wanting people to even touch your arm, look into that too. Where did that came from? What happened to you as a child? Was showing love easy in your family? Was there an abundance of just people showing love? There are some people who resist love because of the trauma that they went through. I have somebody like that on my YouTube, right? I refer to the person and I hope they watch the videos because they are attracted to my YouTube channel because I only post and talk about healing. Even the products that I sell, even the environments that I am a part of, it's all about healing and mental well-being. And this is why this person is attracted to my YouTube channel, and they were part of my very first subscribers when I started my YouTube channel 9 months ago. But when I post things, sometimes this person resists the love that I am pouring out, and they fight me on things as if I am their relative, right? But now I can see past me. In my past life, I probably would have gone head to head with the person. I would say a her because I think or see them as a her. They might not be a her, and I'm sorry. Right? They lost the child, but the pain of losing that child, they haven't grieved it out. And what brought them to my channel is because even before I started recording my own videos, right? I would create content specifically for healing. And they are still on my channel. But when I post some quotes, they will still fight me about it. So you look at it in your life. Do you resist love? Are you afraid of love? Are you afraid of being touched? Do you feel awkward touching someone else? Are you in any of the extremes of you're so hungry for love, you're just like touchy-feely with everybody? I'm not talking about sexual. I'm just talking about in general as a human being. Or are you in the other extreme where you just cannot stand the idea of somebody touching even your arm lightly? Right? In New York City, people say what? New Yorkers are impatient. There are times you get on the subway, you mistakenly bump into someone, or you touch someone, and they just lose their mind. And let's move on. I have a difficult time acknowledging and responding to my own needs, desires, and accomplishments. I have a difficult time acknowledging and responding to my own needs, desires, and accomplishments. Do you have that problem? Of responding to your needs? Better yet, do you know what you need? Do you know what you need? Do you know what your needs are? And I'm not talking about in life, but you as a human being, right? As a spirit. Do you know what you need for yourself, for your own well-being in your heart of hearts? Can you, like it said, I have a difficult time acknowledging and responding to my own needs, desires, and accomplishments. Can you respond to your own need? Can you soothe yourself right now as an adult? Right? I had this prompt. Let me read it again. And I'm just going to go through it quickly. Because like I said, some of these things I was hearing and I had no idea what they were. Signs of a wounded inner child. You are easily offended and hurt, and others feel they have to walk on eggshells around you. You don't have a strong sense of identity. You feel inadequate as a man or a woman. You are unforgiving to yourself, rigid, and a perfectionist. You have deep abandonment issues and would cling to relationships even when they are toxic. You don't trust yourself. You experience anxiety when going out of your comfort zone. You deliberately like being in conflict with people around you. You need external validation. You attract emotionally unavailable people, man or woman. You feel that there's something wrong with you in the deepest parts of yourself, right? We are used to in society saying what's wrong with you, what's wrong with that person, instead of what happened to them or what happened to you. You are a people pleaser. Do you want everybody to love you? You are a hoarder of things, emotions, people, and you have a hard time letting go. Abandonment issues. You constantly criticize yourself for your supposed inadequacies. You have a hard time committing and trusting. You are afraid of being hurt. Right? We talked about most of these things. So I have a difficult time acknowledging and responding to my own needs and desires and accomplishments. Can you self-care? If you are a man and you're watching me, do you think that if you do anything that relates to self-care, that you're being weak? Do you think that if you make a bath, maybe you want a bubble bath, maybe you set up a healing bath with candles and incense, right? And all of that. Do you feel that like it would, like we would say in some places, I think from Jamaican culture, Caribbean culture, African culture, right? I am from the Gambia, West Africa, African culture. Some men are called sissies. Do you think if you do these things, you are a sissy, you are weak for men? For women, do you feel like getting flowers is you never set up your home with flowers, with incense, with candles? You can't do that. Do you feel like you only have to do those things for your partner or for a romantic night? Would you do it for yourself? Be you a man or a woman, right? Would you set up your home or a bath for yourself? Herbal bath. Alright, I was about to light my rosemary and mix with rose, which is a smudging stick, healing stick as well. Right? Would you take an herbal bath, light scented candles, have oils around you, light incense, create a romantic mood for yourself, man or woman? Can you do that for yourself without feeling awkward? Right? And as a woman, do you always feel like you need to be hard? And then do you believe that? Do you believe what society tells us, that what a man can do, a woman can do better? Do you believe in if you're a black woman, do you believe in the idea of the strong black woman? Say you're not a black woman and you're watching me, but you are a woman. Do you believe that you need to be head to head with your man? Do you believe these things? Because these are things that society tells us. But are they true? Because maybe your needs goes against what society is saying. But what? You cannot acknowledge or respond to your own needs because society says what a man can do, a woman can do better. Because society says if a man can be a CEO, a woman can also be a CEO. Now, I'm not saying that's not so. I'm just asking, right? Do you believe these things? Do you believe that you have to look like a man, be strong like a man, act like a man, to be seen as powerful or to be respected as a woman? As a man, do you understand what toxic masculinity is? Not masculinity. Masculinity in its element, masculinity in its prime, every woman loves. Or women like me love. Right? But toxic masculinity comes with the ego. If you watch the emergency meeting yesterday by Cobratate, he talked about it. Toxic masculinity. Right? And the example he gave is you might find, let's give it like social media influencers, a guy on YouTube, and they have maybe, I don't know, 8,000, 9,000 followers like I do, and they feel like they are the man and they walk around acting whatever. Toxic masculinity. Yes, baby. If you what? Harap mo pare fee and then we talk. Well, I don't know, but it looks like it's about to rain. But we'll talk about it. Let me finish. Okay. Right? Toxic, that's what I was explaining, right? Feeling like, oh, Nene. You know, I found this quote. I just remembered about it. Let me read it. And it says, here, the wisest Lord. Yeah, the wisest person is not the one who thinks they know more than everyone in the room. The wisest person is the one who wants to learn something from each person in the room. Is that you? Do you identify with that? The next one. I have a difficult time giving attention to others. You know, there's talk of, oh, the person is selfless, the person is selfish. And some people say that when a person is broke, when a person has poverty mindset, right, they only think about themselves. When somebody's traumatized, they cannot think beyond what they are feeling. They cannot think beyond their current reality. They can only think about themselves, right? They cannot think creative. They cannot think more, right? So the prompt says, I have a difficult time giving attention to others. That could be something, a need that has not been met in childhood, a trauma that happened in childhood, right? And that pain, you are constantly thinking about ways and what you can do to soothe yourself, to better yourself, right? So you are deeply just immersed in your mind. It's always me, which is not bad. But there's a limit to everything, right? There's a limit to everything. There's nothing wrong with eating junk food once in a while. But if you eat junk food every single day, it destroys your health. Some people would say there's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. But if you drink it so much so that you cannot function without it, it destroys your health. The same thing goes for this one. All right, there's nothing wrong with narcissism. Everybody has those traits. Everybody is narcissistic in a way. What I'm doing right now, is it not narcissistic? Getting your attention. Look at me. I'm beautiful. I'm the African queen. Right? but everything has a limit. Are you able to think about the needs and the feelings of others? Now, but not to your own detriment, too. You are not that toxic empath. And that toxic empath is the wounded empath. Ladies and gentlemen, that was me. So I always say this is a dialogue. We're having a conversation, but it's also a monologue, right? Because I'm talking to myself and I'm talking about myself too in what I'm explaining, because I was this person, right? Do you have a balance? Can you balance it? Can you balance that? A few days ago, I don't know, 2 days ago or so, Stormy Wellington was talking to Coach Stormy was talking to Coach Kent. Coach Kent is a relationship coach, right? And Coach Kent was talking about the balance of the masculine and the feminine energies, right? And as a woman, being able to let the man be in their masculine, and as a man, being able to let the woman to be in her feminine. But then the man has to want to be in his masculine, and the woman has to want to be in her feminine, right? There's a balance to it. And Coach Stormy asked him a question and said, I don't believe in that balance. I don't believe that life is a balance. I don't believe that you can have that balance. And Coach Kent gave an amazing example, which I will paraphrase, but I think if you go to Stormy Wellington's YouTube or Instagram, you will find the recording. And Coach Kent said that for mothers and fathers, like if you are a parent, if you are not a parent, I'll give you a different example, but you can still see it, right? If you are around children, okay, let's give it this way. Just as a person, as a human being, you are around children, be they your children, be they not your children. If you don't like children, think about your pets, think about your family, somebody you like. Are you not different people given to the needs that they have? If you are a mother or a father, you are a nanny, you are a babysitter, you have nieces and nephews, and you take care of them. Depending on their mood and how they are feeling and what they need, are you a different person or are you not a different person to meet that need at that particular moment? The way you act with your child when they cry, or the way you act with children when they cry, when they're happy, when they're hungry, when they need to sleep. Are you not able to balance that and be different people at those times? Even your pets as well. The way you take care of them, the way you act around them, depending on what they are doing and what's going on, are you not a different person? Which is also what Coach Ken was talking about in terms of the masculine and the feminine, right? So what I am doing now, I'm tapping into my masculinity, because everybody has a masculine and a feminine, and tapping into the masculinity is what? Doing. Tapping into femininity is being, right? And when you are able to balance that both, you can give attention to the needs of others without losing yourself and still being able to give yourself attention. Is that making sense? Right? Give me some hearts or something. Right? So I know you are understanding it, right? Because sometimes these things are not explained to us. I had chronic depression. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the hearts. I had chronic depression. I was always depressed. I was always in pain. And when you're going through this, you 100% have no time to think about anybody else. At that point, like it or not, you are selfish because it's all about yourself. It's all about your pain. It's all about your hurt. Me, 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 me. Why? Because arrested development. You're still back in the past. Something has happened to you. You haven't healed yet. You just cannot think about anybody else at this moment. Right? When we are depressed, what happens? Some of us, we have functional depression. I had that too, where I can get dressed and look cute and look very beautiful and go out and take care of everything, and then come back home and fall down on my bed, exhausted, drained, because all day I have been putting on a facade of this happy go lucky person, and everything is fine and everything is great, right? But then in my mind, I'm not thinking about people. Or I also had the crippling depression too, which I couldn't move, I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, I couldn't talk to people. I didn't care what was going on around me or with people. I didn't want to hear anybody's problems. I didn't want people to call me. I didn't want people to talk to me. I did not want to go outside to take a walk. I'm not even talking about going to parties and stuff. Right? And then let's go on to trust. So all of that was under safety. Trust. It's hard for me to determine what my needs are. That's also a part of trust. If you have a partner, do you trust your partner? Or if you don't have a partner, do you trust in your heart? Do you trust yourself with your own life? Do you trust yourself with a partner? Do you trust yourself? Do you trust who you are? Right? Because if you don't trust yourself, you cannot trust somebody else. If you think, I don't trust people, why is it that you don't trust people? Is it because you don't trust yourself? What is it in yourself that you are seeing in others that makes you not trust them? Right? Because I always talk about how what you love in somebody else, you love that in that person because it is in you. You can only see it in that person because it's in you. What you judge, okay, I'm seeing the hearts here. Okay, thank you. You're getting it. Okay, okay, right? What you judge about somebody else, what you don't like about somebody else, what you talk about and gossip about someone else, it's in you too. That is the only way you can see it in others. For example, when I see somebody who went through the kind of trauma I went through, hi baby girl, thank you for stopping by. When I see somebody who went through the trauma I went through, right? When I'm around somebody and their energy is different because they went through the things I went through, I can tell. When I see some people act certain ways that I recognize in myself, it right away clicks because I can see it in myself, right? So here, trust. It's hard for me to determine what my needs are. The only time you know what you need mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, romantically, is when you've gone to the point where you trust yourself. You trust that little voice in you. And that voice can be whatever you believe. I always talk about this, right? If you believe in the Holy Spirit, if you believe in Jesus, you believe in Allah, you believe in Buddha, you are a Hindu, you believe in the ancestors, they are that little voice, and that little voice is your voice. Can I, as a person, hear the voice of the Holy Spirit even though I am not Christian? Yes, I can. Why? Because it is my voice, it is the divine voice. So, in order for you to determine what your needs are, that voice is already telling you what your needs are. But if you grew up in a way, all of the above, but if you grew up in a way where you cannot hear yourself, where the voices in your head is somebody else's voice, right? Maybe you haven't determined it yet. How do you know? If right now you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know who you're supposed to be, you don't know what you're supposed to do in life, because everybody else is telling you who you need to be and what you need to do. If you cannot listen to yourself, if you always have to ask people for advice, you cannot think for yourself. I was this person. Even when I dressed up, I needed somebody, anybody, to tell me, oh, that's before I started using Empress, right? I needed somebody to say, oh, Yama, you look so good today. And if nobody said it, just that can completely destroy my day. Because I couldn't hear my own voice. I didn't trust myself. I couldn't love myself. I didn't know what I needed in my life. I did not know. Because as I mentioned, when I first started the life, especially on TikTok, because it cut off, right, going back to the developmental stages of the things that you needed, that you didn't get to your healing journey, right, the things that I liked, the things that I loved, were either bitten, whooped, spanked out of me, or cursed, whatever, cursed, both of them, CUSS, CURSED, out of me. Gaslighting. Some of our parents did gaslight us, where what you need and what you want to do is not the same as the things that they want or how they want you to be. So you cannot hear your voice. You can't determine what you need. When I started the stream, somebody said that my earrings look beautiful, that they liked my earrings. Right? I did not just wake up and happen to dress like this one day. Right? The way, right, go back to determine what your needs are, being able to understand what you need, right? For me to get to this point, I had to go back to my childhood and see that who I am right now is who I have always wanted to be as a child. But because that was deprogrammed, taken out of me, I lost my power as a child and my energy and all of that. I couldn't understand what my needs are and who I needed to be, right? So we change, we morph into different things. One time you look like this, or the time you look like that, because we haven't settled in our identity yet, right? So to determine your needs, what is it that you need? That's something that if you can figure out what you need, right? Not what you want. You might want sneakers, the shoes, and the candy, but you don't need it. But you obviously need water to drink, to bathe with, to shower with. That's a need, a basic need. So, what is it that you need that has not been fulfilled? Right? Can you sit down and say that I need to quit my job? I need to be self employed. I need time alone. I need somebody to watch my kids, to take my kids from me, right? Because we need that. And some of us are too ashamed because we have been shamed and guilted by society. And you cannot say, I need time alone. I need somebody to take the kids away. Do you know what you need in your life? Do you know what you need? So the next one is, I have difficulty trusting that others will meet my needs. Can you delegate? I have difficulty trusting that others will meet my needs. So I try to take care of them by myself, right? To show you again, we're going through the inner child workbook. What to do with your past when it just won't go away. Many of us cannot delegate. I could not delegate, right? I grew up, or maybe you did. If you feel like, okay, let's do it this way. If you feel like you could do it better than everybody, and that if you don't do it, it's not going to get done, or if you let somebody else do it, they might not do it right. Some of us who have had jobs, we have had managers who were, what is it called, micromanaging. They are just on your nose about every single thing. They have to micromanage everything you do, down to the break that they give you, or the break that the company gives you. I know for me, growing up as a child, right, my mother felt like she had to do everything. That if she let us do it, we're going to mess it up. Do you feel that way? That if you let people do things, they're going to mess it up. They don't know how you like things to be done. You can say you are a boss. A boss? A boss. You understand what I'm saying? Pardon my accent. Right? Do you feel like, say, like it is said, a boss chick, a boss man, right? That's an African thing. Hey, boss man. And you feel like maybe your volunteers or your employees cannot do the job right without you. Do you have anxiety leaving things for others to complete? I had that. I think in a way I still have that. Difficult to delegate. Give people something to do and then you end up doing it. Because that's how I grew up. right? Where I was, we had a huge house. As I mentioned, I'm from the Gambia, West Africa, right? I'm not from a poor family. So we had a huge compound. We call it compound, right? Here could be a house. I don't know. America, Europe, whatever, can be a house. So we had a huge compound. And then when I sweep outside, clean out outside, right? We had a house taker, a caretaker, a housekeeper, but sometimes I would help her and I would do things. Or say inside of the house, inside of the home, well, it didn't feel like a home. It was more of a physical structure, a house, because there's a difference between a house and a home. Right? So what would happen when I mop the house or I sweep the compound? It was never enough for them. Sometimes I would sweep and my mom would come back and sweep it again. Sometimes I would mop and my grandmother would think, oh, that's not clean. My grandmother was a little bit better with those things, right? Sometimes I would clean things up or wash the dishes and my uncle would just come out of nowhere. You are so dirty, you cannot even do this. Why? Because my family felt that. So this is part of the generational curses. If you check most of my accounts, I always write, I broke generational curses, because now I'm able to understand this. Each one of them in the family felt that if they were not the one who was taking care of things and doing things, it wouldn't be done right. It wouldn't be done the way they wanted it. If anybody else does it, it's not good enough. For my grandmother, up until she died around 90 something. I think she was what, 95, 93 when she passed away this year. In her old age, it was very, very, very difficult for her to sit and watch people take care of things without her. That aggravated her, it frustrated her, it overwhelmed her to let people do things and she wasn't able to participate in it or take care of it alone. So I have difficulty trusting that others will meet my needs, so I try to take care of them myself. If you do that to your children, you are traumatizing them. I had to learn that with my daughter. I had to constantly tell her, right? Sometimes I'll be aware of the things I'm doing and I have to tell her. Because I do that. I want to do everything. I want to take care of everybody. I want to be everybody's mother. I don't want anybody else to handle everything. I want to do everything. Because of that trauma of feeling like, right, I don't trust others to meet my needs. So I have to take care of everything alone. It's the same thing what I was talking about in terms of the community, getting a coach. Do you feel the money that you want to make in your own life, you have to do it alone? Do you feel the purpose that you have, or what is it that you want to do? You don't need anybody else to teach you, that you can handle all of that by yourself. I am ashamed. I know, no, this one. I lack trust in myself to take care of my needs. We talked about that. If you don't trust yourself, you can't take care of yourself. I could not do, what is it called? What I mentioned, I couldn't do baths, light candles, buy myself flowers, not wait for people to buy me flowers. Before I healed the masculine aspect of me, I didn't even want men to buy me flowers because of a traumatizing relationship that I had, and I was repeating patterns, and I didn't know because that person wasn't healed, I wasn't healed. So he was just as obsessive as I was, but very emotionally unavailable. So flowers became a traumatizing symbol after my relationship with him. And I carried that pain to every other relationship where I wouldn't want men to buy me flowers. Because I'm thinking if they buy me flowers, they're going to get obsessed. And I can't breathe. Because that guy was suffocated. I lacked trust in myself to take care of my needs. But eventually I had to change that and saw that I actually loved and liked these things. Right? Some of us, both men and women, we get ridiculed for doing things that are considered feminine. Buying candles, doing baths, and having incense, playing slow music, being in your feelings and loving yourself, feeling your feelings. Not in a toxic way, of course, because you need to be able to feel your feelings and control your feelings. Because if not, you just go crazy on things. The last one before the closing, I am ashamed to show others how needy. This was me. I am ashamed to show others how needy I really feel. I am afraid they will laugh or ignore me. Everybody has needs, right? Sometimes we get needy, as I mentioned. I've been with men who, and when I talk about it like this, I know some people are like, oh, body count, body count. Hey, right? I've been with some men who are okay when a woman is obsessed with them. And then there are some men who get suffocated by that. I was the type of woman that when a man was obsessed, well, it started when a man was obsessed with me. It fascinated me. I loved it. Before, some of the healthy relationships I had, my mother broke them down. Broke them because why? The she didn't see those men as enough. And so I am ashamed to show others how needy I really feel. I am afraid they will laugh or ignore me. That started as childhood at home when I couldn't really show my feelings, when I couldn't show what I needed, when I couldn't show what I wanted. And now I had to realize that this is a tactic that both men and women use to get somebody obsessed with them. When you hold back your feelings, your words of affirmation, your love, you can get somebody obsessed with you. So I didn't know that. The reason some men, even if I wasn't dating them, it was easier for men to get obsessed with me is because personally I was emotionally unavailable. I couldn't say my needs. Very unpredictable. And it made people want to know, what is she thinking? What is she doing? She's so unpredictable. How is she going to look tomorrow? What is she going to do tomorrow? And I came to learn that some people think that I was actually doing this intentionally. I have absolutely had no idea. I was just so in my own pain and hurt. I wasn't trying to make anybody obsessed. because I was too far gone mentally and emotionally to even worry about making somebody obsessed with me. I was just my hurtful, in pain, traumatized self. And sometimes we get obsessed with men, right? And you think that maybe the man knows and they are intentionally making you obsessed, but it might also be a traumatized man who is just so how is it, submerged, or I don't know, merged in their own pain that they cannot see any further than the pain that they are going through. Right? I hope this makes sense to somebody. That happens too. When a woman or a man is awakened to this fact, of course they can use this intentionally to get you obsessed. But then when you are with a conscious man or with a conscious woman, and you are conscious yourself, you will be able to see it or understand it. And when you're really with a conscious man or with a conscious woman and you are hurt, they would not try to hurt you, because they know if they hurt you, somebody's going to hurt them. It comes as a cycle, right? Everything is a cycle. The generational curses is a cycle. Life is a cycle, right? The tree of life. That's my tattoo. That's my sleeve, right? I tattooed the tree of life to remind myself. So closing. I hope you enjoyed this today. I enjoyed it greatly because this is healing for me, right? Now that I have figured it out, I'll be live on TikTok going forward. So I am live Monday to Friday. I might have to change the time, get the setup going, get things together, because it has been difficult putting things together, because so far I am a one-woman team. So I'm looking for team members, conscious team members, technical. So closing, review your answers. Review your answers if you wrote things down. Review how you feel all through the time that you're listening to me or watching me speak. Review what you get from here. There are some things that I have read or said that might not sink in now, but sit with it. Forgive yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge other people. You judge other people, you're judging yourself. If you've ever said, I am judgmental, the only reason you're judgmental is because you judge yourself, openly or in private. Look at the group of statements on the trust, right? What we talked about in terms of trust. Does it seem from your answers that you have a problem with trust? Do you ever say, I can't trust anybody? I trust no one. I trust nobody. What about safety and nurturing? For instance, if you checked mostly never or rarely, well, yeah, that's like the check-in, right? Trust and always for category of trust, then your caretaker probably met your basic needs and was physically affectionate, but did not respond to your emotional needs, right? So, right, this is talking about, doing the checks in here. If you personally, uh, yeah, you can say it like that. If you personally want to get this book, right, I have the link to it. For me, this book was a gift, so I had to look for the book to find it, because people started asking me about the link of the book when I started reading it live. So if you want to get the book, you can just DM me, and I can send you the link to it, to the book and where it's sold. Um, this is talking about the response that you give, how you felt, how you responded to the things that we spoke about, because this one here is how you respond now, like how you respond today, right? Let me look at here what it says. We will do that tomorrow because I'm hungry now.
Me too. I want pizza.
We will do the other questions, the other exercise, which is acceptance of and by peers, fitting in society, public speaking, and task completion and self-discipline, right? So that will be part 2 of step 1. That will be part 2 of step 1, right? And what was step 1? Step 1 was identifying your pain. So everything that we spoke about today is about identifying your pain, where your pain came from. When did it start? How did it start? As I mentioned, for some of us, we are not even aware of these things. We don't know that these things happen or is a thing, right? I thought when I first started to find out, I thought, would you like me to pull one card, maybe one guidance? What am I feeling? I'm feeling the African Goddess Rising card deck, right? Let me just get it right here. The things that you heard me talk about today, and this is the African Goddess Rising card deck by Abuela Abrams, right? Do you feel that some of the things that I am saying today, this is the first time you heard it? Or is this a confirmation for you? Did you hear it before and you didn't believe it? Right? Are you in an environment where people talk about these things? Right? Do you relate to what I'm saying? Because if you relate to what I'm saying, I always say that the only people who relate to me are the people who are generational curse breakers. The people who relate to me and understand what I'm saying, something happened to them as a child, right? I had to get to the point to know who my tribe is, who my peoples are, because it's not anybody, right? I am not for everybody, the same as you. We are all not for everybody, but I had to learn that. The same, like when I started studying psychology and studying selling, psychology of the buyer and how to sell, because everything is sales in life, right? You have to sell yourself to people. I have to sell myself to people, not sell my soul, not sell your soul, but everything is sales, right? The way I am talking to you, I am personalizing it, right? I am talking to your heart and your soul intentionally, because I needed somebody to talk to me like that. And so I needed to learn how to present myself that way. Some of you are watching me. Maybe you relate to what I'm saying. Maybe you feel my energy. Maybe you like how I look. Maybe you like my head tie. Like the other person said, they like my earrings, right? Maybe because I'm wearing the Bob Marley dress, it attracts you and you feel that you can relate to me, right? So knowing and understanding that you are not for everybody is part of your healing journey. This is not my first time having a business. This is not my first time selling. This is not my first time on social media. This is not my first time going live. I worked at a television station in the Gambia, which is called Gambia Radio and Television Services. But at that time, I thought I was for everybody. I was talking to everybody. I was trying to sell to the whole world. And I would say, when they say, who is your target audience? I would say, everyone. That's trauma, right? That's part of trauma. But the more you heal, the more you understand that there are some people who, they just cannot listen to me. There are some people who just cannot stand me. There are some people, and I had to notice that I trigger them. I trigger the pain in them. I trigger the hurt in them. I trigger their inner child. And I had to learn that the very hard, nasty, painful way to understand that, oh, the reason that I'm not getting along with these people is because I am triggering something in them. Because I always thought that these conversations were normal. Because these conversations are always normal to me. I've always talked about pain and hurt and healing and race and racism and all of these. I've talked about it. But I had to lose myself. Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you, on any platform, you could see that I post about him. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about lose your mind and create a new one. Lose your mind and create a new one. Right? In order, all the wise men and women talk about let your heart break. Break your heart so you can be alive again. And in breaking your heart, that can involve separating from your parents, separating from a relationship, separating from a friendship that you don't want to do, right? It's going to be hurtful. It's going to be painful. You would have to grieve. You might get depressed for a little bit. Break your heart. Your heart knows how to heal itself. Lose your mind. That's Dr. Joe's book, one of his books. Lose your mind and create a new one. So, I always tell the audience, this is TikTok's first time. I always say ask a question, right? It's for you. You ask a question, place an intention of what you want to hear, of the card that you want to come out. Again, this is the African Goddess Rising. I am the African Goddess and I am rising. Don't mind me, right? So, ask a question, place an intention of the guidance that you need, of what you want to hear for today, right? What is it that will suit your soul? What guidance do you need to hear for yourself, from the ancestors? What is a card that you would like to come out? And whatever comes out, that's what you need to hear. One card fell. I always just let the cat fall down. And before I read that card, the cover, I'm going to read the cover for you, right? And the cover said, you called upon the goddess, You called upon the goddesses, and the goddesses called you. You are being called to bear witness to your own joy, magic, and power. Will you heed the call? And this is the card that came out. Ngame. And it's desire. Right? And I will read the whole thing for you very quickly before the TikTok thing died. That is what? Number 8. Okay, 8. 16. I've been seeing a lot of 888 recently. 16. Okay, so I will read that for you. You see that? Ngame. Desire. Ngame, goddess of desire. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Goddess of desire, Ashanti, Akan. Temple conjurers, element is air. Ngame is the triple moon goddess of the Ashanti. Every new day, this mother goddess rebirths the sun, shooting life into us with her moon bow. Her lunar rays illuminate souls. Dream bigger. The guidance is dream bigger. I have to be fast. The TikTok battery is dead on the iPad. Dream bigger. Puny, 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 Puny desires constrict you. Your desires create your life. So allow them to flow boldly. Embodiment. What do you really desire? Didn't we talk about your needs? What do you really desire? Get specific. See it, smell it, feel it. Call it in now. What you desire desires you. Does your desire flow from love or fear? Manifestations that come from fear-based desires keep you safe and small. Desires that come from your soul expand your world. And the goddess declaration is, what I desire desires me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it was a beautiful time. Thank you for everybody on TikTok that stayed. I will be back here, get my setup together, and we will have these conversations more. Right? Wonderful time spending it with you. I need to go eat something. I'm working on my health and well-being, on my diet. I use different products for my own supplement. One of them you saw me drank. So I have not eaten anything because just a cup or tablespoon of the NutriBurst is equals to 10 salads. So I do that, and I always delay my breakfast until lunchtime. And now in my neck of the woods, it's already 2 p.m. If I was back home in Africa, in the Gambia, this is the time that we would be having lunch. So it's my lunch time. Love you loads, and I will see you back here tomorrow. You'll see me live again. TikTok. Now I have to figure out how to close this. How do you do it? How do you close it? Can you still see me? I don't know. Let me stop these ones. These ones I know how to stop. I will get there.